Hello, my name is Cassandra Tijerina, and this is my geography timeline. I will be covering TEKS from grades kinder through 6th grade. Alrighty, so in kindergarten, students will understand preposition terminology and they will be able to understand and use the concepts of the preposition terminology words like under, over, near, etc. Students will also be able to identify relative location and use, for example, school maps and, for example, say the library is next to the cafeteria, the library is above the cafeteria, the gym is in the back of the school, etc. In first grade, students will be able to show and use cardinal directions. So north, east, south, west is what they will be learning about, and a good way to remember that would be never eat sour worms. They will also be able to show and understand relative locations near Edinburgh. For example, let's say the students were to be at Robert E. Lee Elementary, which is in Edinburgh, they would be able to understand that hospitals and the courthouse and areas such as those are considered relative locations. Students in first grade will also be able to locate community, Texas, and U.S. areas on maps and globes. That would include other areas in Edinburgh. In second grade, with maps and globes, students can identify different continents, bodies of water, oceans, etc. That would include our 7 continents and 5 oceans. And I will be including a couple of pictures of oceans and bodies of waters I have had the opportunity to visit, which include the Keys in the Caribbean, Pacific Ocean, La Jolla Beach, and those are a couple. Also, in second grade, students can identify how, and for example, North Dakota, it snows a lot, and that's not a relative subject here in the valley because it doesn't snow, so they wouldn't understand that other people encounter, for example, road blockage in the streets because of the amount of snow that they experience. And that is something that weather and seasonal patterns create. Something that people have modified is, for example, physical environment, such as building bridges. So in South Padre Island, there was a bridge built, and it saves time and it increases the quality of transportation. People no longer have to get on boats or go through the ocean directly. It's another way of transporting. In third grade, for example, we see that there are effects of the physical process, which include increasing the quality of living. So, for example, in Las Vegas, it is a desert, and the climate there is hot, and the living conditions are almost unbearable, but humans seemed to create AC in buildings and create living in areas that initially did not have living. Another effect on physical process would be, for example, hurricanes. There was hurricanes recently in Puerto Rico and Corpus Christi, and even about a year ago in Belize, Central America. And so I had the opportunity to go on a missions trip and help restore some of the quality of living there in Belize. So we were able to build houses and fix drainage so that there would be no overflowing of waste. And that brings me to effects of human process. I also went to Corpus Christi, Port Aransas, Rockport, and we were able to clean up what was destroyed from the hurricane. And that is what humans are capable of. In fourth grade, it is important for students to understand concepts of regions, and they can describe a variety of regions in Texas, United States. Students will be able to identify geographic regions, like, for example, the Great Plains, coastal region. They can understand that there's a difference in climate. So, for example, where we live in the Rio Grande Valley, we live under the Tropic of Cancer. And so that is a location that receives a huge amount of direct sunlight, which is why we hardly ever see snow and experience cold winters. Also, to compare to Tennessee and other places, over there it gets much colder, and it is because of the region where they are located. Tennessee consists of several regions, for example, Valley and Ridge, Central Basin, Unica Mountains, different regions that we don't experience here in the Rio Grande Valley. We don't see too many mountains. In Texas, even, Texas is limited to the amount of mountains that we do see. In fifth grade, students will use geographical tools like VR goggles, grid systems, legends, keys, compass roses, and all these tools will be used for interpretation. Once the students are able to interpret a bunch of information by using these tools, they can then locate important physical features and take their data and put it into graphs and manually made maps. On these manually made maps, for example, students can show areas like Rocky Mountains, the Mississippi River, and Great Plains. In sixth grade, students will be able to locate various places on maps and globes using latitude and longitude to determine absolute location. And they can also find urban centers like Los Angeles and New York City and even McAllen, Texas, and that can all be found on our maps, and it can be pinpointed by focusing on latitude and longitude. So, for example, in Paris, France, it is 48 degrees north latitude and 2 degrees east longitude. You can also find an absolute location by determining an address. Students can also look at maps and globes and identify major world countries, like, for example, Norway and Canada and Mexico. And, for example, I have a Google Maps app which I keep in my phone downloaded just to keep a reference of places I have visited and places I would like to visit. And it's just to have a reference of all the geographical places that I desire to travel to, and to just reflect back on and engage myself more upon the places I have been to. I encourage my students, I will encourage my students to value geography and have a sense of why it's important to understand the differences within geography and how everything is intertwined with geography, including people and weather and agriculture and living conditions and science and math, and everything comes into play when it comes to geography. Thank you.